I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm willing to work as hard as I can.
There is no past, there's no future, there's just this moment right here.
If I did that, if I can get through that, like, come at me.
Changing how I saw myself, like as a man, not just as an athlete.
It's okay that I struggle. It's okay. That's part of the deal. It's how I respond to it.
I'm Tom Foxley, founder of Mindset Rx'd and your host. Today, I'm joined by the PR or PB machine herself, Tanita. Tanita has, over 11 weeks that we've been working together, just come up with more PRs in the last week and a half and more excellent competition experiences than I think anyone I've ever worked with. She's just nailed PBs and she's nailed competitions and she's completely transformed her relationship with training. And in this podcast, we go through the exact strategies that she used and how you can implement them too. We touch on kind of how you can implement that and get benefit from it too. And there's so much benefit to this, and there's so much detail too. And if you're a competitive athlete who is struggling with confidence under heavy bars, with underperforming, and with not being happy with the performances you give, this is the podcast for you, because there's just so much in this that you can take away and apply. So here is the wonderful Tanita. Welcome to the show, which feels weird to say after half an hour of chatting already.
Yeah, that's okay. And thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's start off with the obvious question. Before starting this journey, we're 11 weeks in, got a week left, which seems like how does 3 months go that quickly? But
I know.
Before starting that journey, where was your mindset? Where was training? Put me in that place that led up to us getting in touch.
So that would have been last year. And I can't remember. I know I was searching out mindset podcasts. And particularly leading into when I went into the Down Under Championships competition, I was looking for a lot of mindset stuff. And then yours resonated the most and sort of made the most sense to me. So I totally used your podcast going into the Down Under Championships as much as I could. And then when I had a pretty bad experience with panicking and not being able, I felt like I couldn't give everything to the workouts, and a lot of imposter syndrome. It was probably after that I was thinking, this is ridiculous. I need to do something about this. So I think, listening to more podcasts, and then I can't remember when it was after Christmas, but then, that's right. It was coming into another competition with my friend, and I think I sent you a message about what would I do for a lift or something. And then since you responded as well, and then I think you had places opening up, so I was just interested.
Perfect
Big
timing.
thing. Yeah.
Perfect timing. It's been a crazy 11 weeks, but what was that comp before you reached out? You said imposter syndrome, panicking. Do you mind sharing a bit more about what exactly that looked like?
So I think when we had gotten there and you had to register and everything, I thought we were just going to be separate from all the international athletes and stuff like that. So I think when we started to see them, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And then there was a workout that was Randy, which is the 75 snatches for time. And we had to be 2 working pairs together, but we weren't facing each other. It was like front and back. So, and you had to be synchro. And I felt really panicky with that because I think at the time, and I didn't know, I had a labral tear. So I always sort of struggled in a snatch, and particularly cycling them. So, when doing that, like, I really feel like I failed and put our team in a worse position because I couldn't keep up with my partner cycling in front of me. So, that was like the start of the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, that sort of got really bad. And I was just like, I'm just a fill-in. They would have picked someone else if there was someone better. So, yeah, that was the worst part of it.
Yeah, I bet. And what did you like think about just starting out, or maybe even like the first call that we had? What did you want from mindset coaching?
To figure out my brain, because I knew there was something. I knew that I could do these workouts, like, and even in comp workouts or open workouts, it's almost like I'm pushing, and then there would be a wall and I would stop. And I knew that had to be like what I was thinking, or there was like a mental block there somewhere. So, and like I'm fit enough. I knew like I had the fitness there. So I was like, what is my brain doing to me right now? Yeah, it just didn't make sense. And no matter how much I would tell myself, like, you can. And then there would be like a whisper that was like, no, you can't.
Yeah,
and
the
that
deafening
would mess
whisper, right?
up. Yeah, always, especially lifting.
Yeah, so that's where like heavy lifts was a big one. And then we'd also worked in gymnastic stuff. Like, what was you've been experiencing like almost 12 weeks of this now. What was the deeper reason that you really wanted to kind of get involved in mindset training? Like, what was the thing that you wanted on a deeper level?
So I want to be able to compete at a higher level, and in my age group and individually. Like, I want to be a competitive athlete. So, and push myself to like as much as I can and achieve something and be something that I can be proud of.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good reason to have. That's a good why. Like the self pride, the kind of like, I did this. I gave everything I could. That's awesome. When we started working together, do you remember, like, obviously we speak about stories and beliefs and things that were getting in the way. Like, what did you identify as the pattern of like, oh, this is the thing getting in my way. This is what I need to work on. And it seems so long ago now. Like, it seems like, like I'm trying to think back myself, but like, do you remember where we started?
I think it was the self-doubt and that, like, that block of where I'm like, you can, and the no, you can't, coming in at the last minute. And then I wouldn't, I'd fall apart and just fail reps and stuff like that.
Which is leading to like those comp experiences, right? And it was leading to and just failing reps in training. Yeah,
definitely. Like, towards the end of a workout, if it was like, come on, 1 minute left, and I would just crumble like all the time. And I'd be like, why am I failing reps right now? So there was always like this little sort of anxiety that would come in, and it was like, I know I was just doing it perfect, like, what's going on?
Which is super frustrating, right?
Yes, super frustrating. And and I suppose that led to me realizing how angry I can be sometimes.
Okay, and then do you remember so we started working together. Was there like an aha moment at any point? Like it seems like there's been multiple, like it seems like there's been maybe like every 3 weeks or so it's been like, oh, okay, that was a big step forwards. Do you remember your first like, oh, that was a bit of an epiphany in the way I'm thinking?
I think it was like with maybe because like the bound nature stuff wasn't until like the second part. So maybe I think it was just when I would have gone through and listed maybe goals and what's holding you back. I think that was the first thing. And I was like, oh, it's me. It's me holding me back. Yeah. And then I think, when I went through, like the goals and like what you can do to improve, the things on what you can do to improve was everything I could do for myself. And I obviously did not realize that.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's the ownership you take of it. It's like, oh, it's me. Have you seen that? I think it's like a Scooby-Doo meme where it's like, oh, we finally find out who the villain is and he takes the mask off and it's himself. And it's like, oh, no, it's me the whole time. It's kind of like that.
Totally. So I look like it should be in Scooby-Doo.
We started working on like goals, vision, meaning, and then we got to bound nature and free nature. That was pretty big for you as well, right? What did you notice in terms of like the thoughts and the emotions that were getting in your way?
I really realized how negative the whispering voice of no, you can't, like how much negativity I had towards myself, and then how that sort of cascaded down into like a frustration that would be an anger then towards myself. And then like almost punishing myself for it as well after that. And before that, I had no idea. I actually thought like, I don't get angry in a workout. I don't crack to shits and storm off. Never. But I think because like when you see other people do that, they're like directing it to a group, or it's like it's at other people, where I was doing it to myself. So I really didn't notice.
And which is super common as well. People. Yeah. It's like reflecting at yourself, and you kind of like, but it's more subtle, right? It's kind of like, it's almost like more socially acceptable when you're directing it at yourself rather than other people. Like people are less upset with it for some reason. Yeah. And people probably just thought like, oh, she's really getting into it or something. I don't know. But or maybe they egg you on or something. I don't know. Yeah. And what problems was that creating in your training, and what problems was that creating with your relationship to training and competition? So it was definitely preventing me from being able to push harder and like give everything to a workout when I needed to. And then in a comp sense, then that would cascade again and lead to imposter syndrome. And then I would just put up like a huge block, like that I cannot do this. I think that, and then once I recognized that, and I could sort of either maybe intervene a bit or just recognize that bound nature was there and be okay with that, then I actually like the amount I liked training. I thought I always liked training. I've never not turned up. I've always done it, but I actually enjoyed it so much more. Like it was more fulfilling and I was happy with myself, which I obviously wasn't before because I hadn't had that before at all. So it's been a great time. Yeah, it's like the last, what I'd say 3 weeks, especially, it's just been this, like, I think you almost went through this, like, to begin with, the goal setting phase, I think is almost like quite exciting because it's like, oh, this vision, this is where I want to get to. And you get those initial quick wins. And it's like, and then we go into this deep dive into like bound nature and free nature. And it's like, oh, this is deeper than I anticipated.
Yeah.
And that's like the valley of despair that we all enter. And then like on the other side, we get that, like your last 3 weeks, which has been phenomenal. And we'll get to those in a second, but it feels like it was all worth it. What do you think in terms of like, so if you remember all the session, the perform stuff we did, so effort over outcomes, sticking points, visualization, character skill training, out of those perform pieces, what do you think was most beneficial to you?
Probably I think probably like the process, making my process and the character traits, that definitely has been the most beneficial, like for in my workouts. But I think to get to that stage and be able to use them properly, like if I hadn't discovered so much in the rewire part, then I don't think I would be able to use the perform part and the character traits properly.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, because you need that understanding of yourself. You need that understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, and then you need the opposite of it to try and practice.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Yeah. Really nice. Yeah, I think that's pretty much nailed. And then the same thing for the comp prep stuff that we did as well, of like, you needed to know, okay, how am I likely to fail if I'm going to fail, and how am I likely to let myself down, and then how can I overcome that as well? And that you can only do that really when you've done the work in the rewire portion.
Yeah, definitely, it's helped immensely.
Good. So let's go to the exciting stuff. Let's go for competition experience yet. Your most recent competition experience. Like, tell me about that.
that was crazy. I don't know. Everything went perfectly.
Yes.
Well, perfectly. That like, I didn't have any negative experience in that at all that I felt was negative. So, there was like, I PR'd my snatch, which, like, you know how nervous I was about that, and thinking like I won't be able to do that. Like, how can I live up to that and deliver for my partner that I was with? And then there was the DT workout that I was like, there's no way we're finishing that. And we finished that with plenty of time to spare. And then failing, like there was workouts we didn't finish, so I won't say failing, but with like bar muscle ups, and then in the final ring muscle ups, and it was like, even though we didn't finish it, the way that I handled it for myself and what I was able to do anyway was like amazing for me to string a few ring muscle ups together and in a final. And I was like, don't think like doing this in front of a whole group of people, making me feel anxious thinking about it, that I like, am I going to look stupid and all that sort of stuff. And like I mentioned, and you were like, jump off the cliff. So it's like, be curious and what could happen. So if I didn't think that, and if I didn't have my processes to go back on, then none of that would have happened. So like reverting to a process the whole time, it kept me on track, and there was no negativity at all. And that was probably like the best snatching I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But it was just a great experience.
I think that's what you did so well. and this, like, even with this new phase that we're into and almost finishing up now with the shadow work and going for that deeper dive, like, you've done such a good job of thinking, okay, what's the process? How do I, like, what are the inputs that I can actually control? And to the best of your ability, losing your focus on the outcome. You've been doing such a good job, like, okay, this is what I can control. And like that skill you've developed, being able to take risks now and not shying away from failure, like, that is, like, you've done a fantastic job of developing so quickly because you've put the work in, like, you've put the sets and the reps in. And like, it's, would you ever have believed at the beginning that, like, you could have got to that point where you're just like taking risks and having a perfect snatch workout?
No, not at all. No, I would have just ended up doing the same things as before, and just I feel like I would go into workouts before and just be like, oh, let's see what happens, and then not have any sort of plan or not think about what I was doing. And then just, it was like, oh, let's see what surprise happens at the end of this. And if it works well, it works well. And if it doesn't, then you have to eat shit. Mm-hmm. But like now it's like, having a process there, it definitely, like that, that's the process is what I can control. And then if it doesn't, like, I have also in that competition figured out how to adapt and not get pissed off about that. Like, it's like the bar muscle ups. There was another bar above the bar that I was doing a bar muscle up on, so I couldn't like flick myself over. So it's almost like I had to do a very like high catch. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's what we're doing today. So
nice. The adaptability then. Like, you had that ability to adapt to the moment, and like, perfect. Really, really nice. Really nice.
Yeah.
And then what's happened in the last few weeks in terms of PRs too? Because I think this is like, I've lost count now. Where are you at in terms of PRs in the last 2 weeks?
I don't even know. Well, there's been a PR every day this week.
Yes, good.
And then there was an accidental one last week. But it's like at the point where I was like, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, how is this even happening right now? And I was always worried that using like the perform part would somehow, like, it would leave, like it's too good to be true, it would run away from me. But then I'm just like, just revert back to the process every time. Like, I'll scream that at myself and then have it written down on my hand.
Yeah.
And every single time it's working. So it's
That's actually something that you started doing that I've started implementing with other athletes now. It's like writing stuff down in your hand as a reminder of just like, because that was such a good idea, because it's so easy to lose sight of like, this is the character skill. I'm just like, this is how I'm going to do it. This is my bite protocol. But just by sticking that on your hand and just having it there as a reference point is so like useful, because you're going to look at your hands at some point in the CrossFit workout. And even if you just see like the blur of like text on there and you're like, okay, that reminds me, the sweaty kind of mess of pen on your hands, you don't want to Sharpie it
on my face.
Like having that reminder there's so good. So you've PR'd a ton, and I don't want to like say, oh, it's just mindset work, because obviously you've been training hard, obviously your programming has to be on point too, and you've like put years of work into this, but like, what's the difference in terms of your approach to a test week like this now compared to like 4 or 5 months back?
Yeah. So with doing all of this mindset work and, setting your goals and stuff. So using the direction review, I really like using that because I'm an airhead and I'll be like, let's do this, and then I'll forget about it. So it's definitely keeps me, like, my nutrition has gotten 100% better, and then that's giving me more energy to do more workouts and work harder and recover better. And then, keeping me more accountable with my sleep. That's a work
Good.
in progress. And definitely, like, it makes me want to put the extra effort in all the time. It's like I see that, I put the effort in with my mindset, and then that pays off. So it's going to pay off if you put extra effort into other areas, and then you see things improving, and it makes you want to keep going and keep doing that. So it's like helped everything. And like I see the complete difference holistically, like it works in everything.
Nice. Yeah. So, what's interesting about that is I could probably count on one hand the amount of times we've mentioned nutrition. We haven't even like made a point of it. I can't remember a single time when we've gone like, okay, let's discuss nutrition. Let's make a plan for it. It's just because the way you view yourself and the story that you're telling yourself has shifted over the last 3 months. And that applies to everything you're doing, whether it's work that we've we've touched on here and there, but not been like a main focus, but we've seen some changes there. And then like nutrition, like we've seen changes there. It's like, it's all down to the story you tell yourself. It's fascinating to see that wider impact.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. As like I would tell other people, if they're looking to like lose weight and get healthy, if you do a workout or do exercise, your body, you are naturally going to want to eat healthier after it. And I feel like that's probably the same with your mindset. Like you have a healthy mind and everything else will follow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, lovely. Really nice. And then I suppose the last couple of questions. How would you summarize this? Like, how's your mindset shifted over the past? Like, who have you become over the past 3 months that like you wanted to become? Like, how's that developed?
Well, I'm definitely a lot happier with myself, in myself, which was obviously something I overly didn't recognize before until like we would have started journaling. And then confidence, like I know that I greatly lack confidence. So that has changed immensely. Like it's probably undescribable that, I actually have confidence now, whereas I didn't before. And then the belief in myself is huge as well, because I did not have that at all, and I would have been like even scared to think of that before. Like I wouldn't have even, if I had thought that or said that, I'd be like, don't say that. It's a bad omen. Put it back. Don't say anything. So yeah.
Nice. Shadow work, right? The depth that we're hitting. So the final question, what would you say to someone who's kind of on the cusp of thinking about mindset work, when they're kind of like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? Like, what would you say to them?
I would definitely say like make the jump and just go with the flow. Like maybe going having no expectations, but it's like if you think that there's something that you can make better for yourself, like I think if you feel like there's something missing, like, you obviously, or like you can definitely feel like there's a block somewhere, then it's definitely for you. And then, just jump in and don't have any expectations, just verbal diarrhea and go with the flow and it'll work.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a process. Actually, I forgot to ask you one thing. What was your biggest challenge in this? Like, what was the thing that you struggled with, or you found the toughest to get around? Like, whether that was like anything from like having the time to do this, to doing it consistently, to a particular struggle you found in your mindset that was like stubborn to overcome, like to a particular problem in training. Like, what was the biggest challenge you had in this process?
I think was recognizing and catching the bound natures, like recognizing my own behavior in the moment that it was happening. And then like what to do about that. Because then like a big part of that was like imposter and comparison and stuff like that. That was probably the hardest one, because that I probably catch myself a lot doing that still. And that's not anywhere near as bad, but probably recognizing the behaviors that I had, because they were ingrained for so long that, yeah, you don't realize. But otherwise, like the time, maybe for some people it might, it might be really easy for them to be like, what were your wins? Stuff like that. And it might not actually take them that long. And then some people like me, you have to sit there and think about it a bit, but it's totally all worth it. And it would be like surprising to see what you find out about yourself if you do take the time to do it.
You know what? I think it's almost because you took the time over it and you really thought about those wins, and you really thought about the way you prepped each session, and you really thought about the other journaling tasks that I gave you and the conversations that we had. I think that's why you progressed so well within this. It's like, for the people who can just like rush through it and just go, okay, 10 wins, bam, 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 bam. They're not really kind of percolating on it. But when you're thinking, okay, what is my next win? Like, okay, maybe I need to think smaller. Maybe I need to use the conversations that we've had throughout the week and think like, okay, this is what I'm working on. How is this a win? And like, I think that's why it works. And it's interesting because the struggle, like, this is a cliche, but the struggle becomes the path, right? Like the obstacle is the opportunity, and it's the thing that makes this work for you. So maybe without that difficulty, without the kind of like the having to really work at it, we wouldn't have developed so quickly. So it's like, I think it's testament to your discipline and hard work and focus and humility within that as well, that you've done so well.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed it.
Good. I have too. Massively.
Having a little chat with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So thank you once more for joining me. Like, nailed it. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Not that I can think of.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I massively
worries.
Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Remember, if you're not subscribed, you may not get notified when new episodes come out. And also, if you're after more focused mindset training, head to my Instagram, give me a follow, and you'll find me there, which is @Tom Foxley.